If you train long enough and you're pushing yourself hard enough, it's inevitable that you'll encounter injuries at some point. Some may be small overuse injuries that heal in a couple of weeks, while others might be major injuries that take lots of time to recover from. However, no matter how big or small your injuries are, they need to be addressed when they develop. Being injured requires both a train smart and train hard approach. You need to take your injuries and recovery seriously, while also taking training around and not on your injuries seriously as well. In this video, I'll show you how you can minimize your chances of injuries in the first place, and then give you some practical principles for training around any current injuries you have and still make good progress in the meantime. Now let's get into it. First thing you can do to avoid injuries is to warm up properly. Most people rush from one place to another as they go about their busy schedule, and the gym's no exception. They rush through workouts, skip proper rest breaks, and cut down time on their warm-ups. If you're one of these people, you need to stop. This not only exposes you to injury, it also makes your main workout less effective. And this is because having a proper warm-up is not only an injury prevention measure, it's also a performance enhancement measure. During a proper warm-up, you're essentially priming your body for more strenuous activity and specific movements and exercises you're about to do in the main workout. And if a part of your body feels stiff or a bit tight and not right on the day, then you'll need to spend the extra time priming that area before you get into your training session. Doing so will both optimize your workout performance while at the same time minimizing your chances of injury. See my video on how to warm up properly for more on this. The other side of the training session is also important too. You need to do a proper cool down at the end of your workouts in order to recover properly and ensure your body is ready for its upcoming movements and exercise requirements. You need to do an adequate amount of soft tissue, stretching and mobility work to both recover properly and maintain your functionality between workouts. Neglecting this over time will show up with both acute and chronic injuries surfacing. If you don't keep your body and your joints mobile and moving through full ranges of motion unrestricted, then you'll eventually break yourself when you approach that full range of motion, again with load and intensity. If something hurts or feels particularly worked or tight, which is likely most of the muscle groups you've trained, you need to stretch and release these areas before limping into your car after training. If you need some ideas on exactly what to do in your cooldown, download my free Ultimate Stretching Guide via the link in the description to this video. If you're looking for some good additional ways to improve your recovery from your training, you can use some of these good recovery methods where you can as well. Proper recovery isn't just about what you do with your body, it's also about what you put into it as well. This means that adequate nutrition is essential to the repair process. You need enough building blocks for full tissue repair after exercise, and this will only come from what you're eating. Also, where you can, be sure to consume foods that decrease inflammation and aid recovery. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil are a great example, and if it's joint related, supplements like glucosamine and chondroitin can really help too. And when it comes to your intake, don't toxify your body with too much alcohol either. Too much alcohol will hamper your repair processes, and being hungover while training is a good recipe for injuring yourself. Sleep shouldn't be sacrificed either. Ensure you get at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Being overly tired in the gym is also a great way to timmy up your training and get injured. And on the topic of fatigue, this can definitely become cumulative when you're going at it hard on a consistent basis with your training. When required, consider taking deload weeks to manage this. Don't try to hit PBs every session, which brings me to my next point. Don't be stupid. Stop ego lifting and trying to hit unrealistic PBs. See my other video for more on this. As always, technique comes before load. Listen to your body, and if you feel something is off mid-set, stop. Don't turn a mistake into a bigger mistake. And don't goof off with your mates mid-exercise or start wandering off with the pixies. You need to concentrate when you're moving your body. Even if it's not an intense exercise, you still need to focus. Here is one of my most frustrating injuries to date, an ankle injury that took more than 18 months to fully recover from. And all because I didn't concentrate during a warm-up exercise. Likewise, don't needlessly put yourself out of action or worse yet, into a hospital. Now, if it's too late for you in hearing all this and you already have an injury, then let's talk about how you can deal with it and train around it. Before we get into how to deal with injuries and train around them, let's first distinguish the difference between discomfort and injury. Anytime you train or push yourself hard to be better, it's natural to feel some discomfort in your body as it breaks into new working levels and capacities. This is especially true if you're doing a new form of training or new exercises for the first time. Being sore with DOMs, aches, pains, and niggles are part of the process. Discomfort doesn't necessarily mean injury. Learn to listen to your body and distinguish the difference between the two. Watch my No Pain No Gain Part 1 video for more on this. If you're suffering pain that is not due to natural discomfort, even in the slightest, you need to stop the exercise and address the pain before the issue gets exacerbated. If it's an injury, it might be obvious, or it will usually get a lot more painful after you've stopped. How do you determine if it's something that's beyond minor and needs professional treatment? Well, my general advice is if the area has pain that doesn't improve or gets worse in the next 2 to 3 weeks after the event occurred, then it's time to get it checked out. Don't put off seeing a relevant health professional such as a physiotherapist or a sports doctor. The longer you put off an injury, the worse it will become. Too many people often sit around whining about an injury without doing anything about it. Stop whinging and do something about it. In this modern day and age where there's so much medical science and so many treatment options available for just about any condition, it's stupid not to look for professional help. If it is a serious injury and you're unsure of the proposed treatment methods, don't sit around with your finger up your ass worrying about it. Instead, get a few different opinions to weigh up the best course of treatment and work around it with your training however you can. On the flip side, if you're a person who continues on with the original training plan and tends to ignore pain without really treating your injury seriously enough, for your own good, take the time to back off, get it attended to properly, and work on something else. Regardless of what type of person you are, you'll need to continue on with training what you can and adapt your training plan to accommodate the recovery of the injured area and prevent further damage. There are always weaknesses to be addressed, and there's hundreds of exercises out there that you can perform without aggravating a current injury. In fact, most injuries occur from overuse of common exercises and movements and a lack of focus on areas you're neglecting to train, i.e. your weak points. Although some injuries are acute and freak accidents, most exercise-related injuries are chronic in nature and develop over time and culminate into an event like how the last straw finally broke the camel's back. Although you might think that most of your injuries are acute, the truth is that most of these have been an underlying issue for some time, and they're likely due to an imbalance somewhere in your body, whether that be strength deficits, tissue quality discrepancies, lack of flexibility, or restricted range of motion, etc. Use the time you're injured to really bring up all your weak areas and back off with the loading on the injured area. When it comes to the injured area, you need to realize that pain alters the muscle and joint mechanics because your body is naturally trying to avoid pain. This in turn can create more injuries because your body develops compensation patterns to shift the loading to other areas equipped to handling it. For example, this is why a hip issue can easily turn into a knee and a lower back issue. To avoid these compensations, simply decrease the loading so that you can allow the muscles and the joints that are supposed to be doing the work actually do their job. If you can lift the lighter loads with good form and without discomfort, then you'll definitely want to continue to train to help build your body up and mitigate further muscle and strength loss from the lack of use. If you can't train a joint or limb at all with any loading, let's say for instance you've had a shoulder surgery, then consider just training the opposite side via the neural crossover effect. If you're not familiar with this is a phenomenon in your body where if you work one side, there is a 30 to 40% neurological crossover effect in strength on the opposite injured side, even if it's not doing any training. Crazy, right? So in our shoulder surgery example, by strengthening the good shoulder, you're also able to strengthen the bad shoulder even if you don't move it at all. The same principle also applies to muscle activation and range of motion as well. The crossover method works particularly well doing unilateral exercises in the 8 to 15 rep range, where you can control the eccentric or lowering phase of the exercise. Inversely, you should be doing 3 to 5 sets with around 1 to 2 minutes rest between sets a couple of times each week if you're resorting to these exercises. As you can see, you don't need to sit at home crying on your couch and eating ice cream while you nurse every injury. Where there is a will to train, there is more often a way to train. Which leads into our next point. Man up. The other end of the spectrum to someone who ignores their pain and doesn't adapt their training to accommodate their injuries is a person who stops everything that they do and lets their injuries throw all their training out. When you get injured, don't become an overly discouraged little sook who throws out your training goals completely. Most injuries are temporary and can be trained around. And if somebody like Ty from Philly can train like this with a permanent disability, then what's your excuse?
No excuses for anybody to not be in shape when this man is out here using just his upper body when everybody is an able body. This is no excuses.
And because most of your injuries are temporary, you should be doing as much rehabilitation work as you can to speed up the recovery. And don't say things like, I hurt my back doing deadlifts, so I'm not going to do that again. Well, I'm sorry, but people deadlift stuff off the floor every day, so unless you never intend to pick something up ever again in your life, my advice to you is to get over it. It's not the exercise that's a problem, it's your way of doing it that's a problem. You haven't learned the lesson the injury has taught you about how not to do something or how not to move